This is the cheapest electric dirt bike on Amazon, but is it any good? Can it wheelie? Is the suspension good enough to not pump out my arms after a couple minutes of riding? Are the brakes good enough to make me feel safe? And what's the top speed? I really don't have a clue, but I bought it, so today, we're gonna find out. This dirt bike was only $1,200, so I had no idea what to expect. Ooh, orange wheels. It's actually the cheapest electric dirt bike I have ever seen, because the only thing cheaper is a stock Razor. Those go for $600 to $700, but they have no power to speak of. They're really more of a toy for children. Until you start upgrading them, of course. This bike was packaged really well, and all of the spare parts had its own slit, so there's no way you could lose anything here. And before I even got it out of the box, I was really impressed with this comfortable feature. I've reviewed almost every cheap bike on the internet at this point, and a big red flag is when the seat is really small, like my Temu 110, because small and comfortable seats, it's hard to recover from, and it's a lot of modification to change. But this thing looks quite big, pretty wide too. So far, the only bad thing about this morning is my bed head, so let's get this on the stand and see what she looks like. The bike is only 105 pounds, so it's going to be really maneuverable on the trails, but honestly, this frame looks so overbuilt, I think they could have made it a bit lighter. And as you guys can see, if I finish this thing tonight, that means I get a ride first thing in the morning. And you get real inverted forks with it, 2,000 watts, and it looks like it's geared down pretty low with this big sprocket. And the brakes actually look nicer than what you get on like a Sur-Ron. Wow, this thing is pretty crazy actually. The swing arm does look heavy. That's definitely steel. But for an entire electric dirt bike for $1,000, are we really too worried about the weight of the swing arm? 14-inch front wheel, 12 in the rear. Before I go any further, let's get this thing on the charger, so when it's done, we can ride it. I'm thinking it's gotta be this here. Well, that's a cute little charger. 2.5 amps. Well, I'm glad we're starting now. This process looks actually pretty easy. Just one little spinny boy to get the seat off, one little spinny boy to get the battery off. Interesting. This is a cool tester that I got that'll show us what the power draw is. 10 watts. So this battery is basically 1,000 watt hours. So either the battery shipped fully charged and it's just doing a light draw to balance the cells, or yikes. Extrapolate that math, and this would take 4 days to charge from zero. There's no way that's the way that it is. So let's throw on the handlebars, see if the battery is fully charged, and then go from there. It is extremely uncommon for batteries to ship fully charged. Normally the battery even ships in a separate package. It is so regulated in shipping laws. All right, moment of truth here. Did this come mostly charged, or is the battery just really, really slow? I do not like that one bit. This is what I'm not happy about, right there. And it's a hazard. Think of a pinched extension cord. It's gonna generate heat right where it was pinched. And I even have a white extension cord to show you that that gets hot. It was actually underneath the rollers of my toolbox for a while. I've been told to think of current like water in a stream, and if you have a big elbow in that stream, you're gonna have a buildup of energy, like the water behind a dam, for example. But in the case of electricity, a buildup of energy can cause damage to the cable, or even worse. I'll figure that out and make sure that's the way it's supposed to be later. For now, good. That just means that it came most of the way charged, so it was just taking a little extra voltage to try to balance out the cells, which is awesome news. Very awesome news. So after looking it up online, this bike takes 7 to 8 hours to charge. And if it really does reach that claimed top range of 45 miles, it's not terrible, but it's also not the best. So
Let's head on to attaching this front wheel. This bike actually didn't come with grease, so if you plan on buying it, make sure you also throw in some grease in your Amazon cart. Now, getting this brake on was an absolute struggle fest, but it was 100% user error. Holy smokes. We're gonna have to bleed this thing again. Shoot. Oh. Huh. So this is something I'd never seen before. There was a wedge in the front brake, so the brake was basically on, which is why the pistons were out so far. Why would they do that? Well, let's see if it's easy now. Yep. Super easy. I guess that's just to keep it in place, grasp that little wedge that comes with it. Very interesting. So it shipped with a little wedge holding the brake on, and I was trying to push apart the calipers to fit in the brake for like 20 minutes before I realized that, but once I took it out, everything went together nice and easy, no problems at all. Well, if it can do wheelies, this is very easily replaceable, that's for sure. Which is an inevitable part of doing wheelies. That is one massive rear sprocket, huh? Now that I had it all pieced together, I wanted to rev it up and see what it could do. I hope we're in some kind of power limited mode. Oh, thank goodness, that was eco. This is sport. That's more like it. All right, done playing around. Let's finish this thing and take it on the streets. Electric dirt bikes are always super easy to set up, and this was no exception. Just throw on the front wheel, handlebars, fenders, these fork covers, and you're pretty much good to go. It is time to install our foot pegs, and these look pretty cheap, but they won't bend like the Temu 110. So better than the Temu 110, basically the same price. I'm calling that a win. Throw the spring around the peg, put the bolt through that, and then it came with a cotter pin that once we fold it out is gonna keep everything together. All we have left is the handlebar support and the front fender. I think this thing is gonna be fun. Look at it. At least it looks cool. That we know. It looks a little bit heavy for what it is, I'm not gonna lie, but no judgment until we try it. Most dirt bikes come with a hard plastic number plate, and that's pretty nice because you can run the brake lines through it or behind it, which looks nice and clean. These brake lines are really hard, like not malleable at all. So eventually I ended up just kind of zip tying them to the side and hoping for the best. I actually had to undo these zip ties with my new put pressure on the outside of it trick, which totally works, by the way. First interesting thing I actually learned from Instagram that improved my life, and once I realized the amount of hours I'd spent on Instagram with only having learned one interesting thing, I took it off my phone. I was just about to take it off the stand and I realized something pretty sketch. So I imagine this kickstand is so you can easily put a foot down on it, and then it also like comes out a bit. So I guess you could like push it back with your heel if you're on the bike. But if you were to fall, that is just sketchy. All right, first time off the bike stand. The front feels pretty soft, and there isn't an adjustment, but it does have real brakes. Not little mountain bike brakes, so that's actually really cool. Let's see what that torque feels like. Okay. Aww. Woo. It has one of those sketchy things where you can't hold down the rear brake and the throttle at the same time, which isn't great for wheelies, but I bet you if we cut this cord right here, I'll do some Googling real quick. But hey, does have enough power to get it up there. Let's load it up and put it through the paces. So it has enough power to do a burnout, but is the suspension any good? Can it wheelie? How are the brakes? And what is the top speed? We're about to find out. It was snowing outside, so I wanted to head into the garage to see if this could do a rolling burnout and test out the balance point on some dry pavement. Definitely comes with enough torque to put the front end up with that big rear sprocket, so let's see if it has enough torque to do a burnout. That was full throttle the whole time? I mean, you're not gonna be winning any stunt competitions with this thing, let's just be real. I'd give that a 4 out of 10. Some of the Temu bikes over there are also $1,000 or less and can do a better burnout than that. Now for the big question, can she wheelie? Oh yeah, she's got it. I don't know if I have enough room in here to really lay one out though. I practiced in the garage for a bit, and then when I started to feel comfortable, we went out looking for the driest patch of road we could find. You might be watching this wondering what's in the giant crate. It is going to be the most different thing I've ever done on this channel. Never even seen one ever, especially not on YouTube. Comment that you subscribed if you want to see what's in the crate. Found a good dry stretch of pavement. Today we are going to figure out two things. If this thing can wheelie at all at speed and how fast it goes. That's full throttle, full lean back. I mean, you can definitely get it, but it's not an easy bike to wheelie, that's for sure. The equivalent in horsepower of 2,000 watts is just under 3. Just under 3 horsepower isn't the easiest thing to wheelie, but let's be honest, you can wheelie a bicycle. So with enough practice, anything is possible. I mean, it's not a bad like beginner wheelie bike, I guess, because it forces you to find your balance point like perfect. It took me some time to sort it out, but this bike is geared so low, as long as you go relatively slow, it's pretty easy to wheelie actually. You really don't get enough power to pop it up unless you're going like 2 or 3 miles an hour. Like that was full compression to get it up. And the second you start chasing it, you don't have enough power to chase it. That's just the way it is. Hey, there we go. That wasn't bad, huh? You just have to be going really slow to hit the torque range. It's definitely got a better time at it downhill. And the throttle curve is actually pretty smooth and predictable, which is always really important on electric bikes. Nothing's worse than just randomly getting a burst of energy when you weren't expecting it. So wheelie ability, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because it'd be great to learn on and pretty good to just practice, honestly. The brakes are great, so I felt pretty safe. Now let's test the suspension and then finally the top speed. All right, this thing actually has a little speedometer on it. We're in sport mode. This will be fun hooning around in this. It's definitely like a little more power, but this controller is tunable, which is really interesting. It's icy, man. Icy. Holy smokes. Can she take a fall? Yes, she can. See how the suspension feels. These grips are also the worst kind of grips. They're like that. Hard plastic. Yeah, I mean, we're cruising through like 4 or 5 inches of snow. That's pretty good. The bumps don't feel too bad. Wow, I'm actually surprised. I thought that was going to be substantially worse. I'm surprised it has the torque to get through this, actually. Really test this suspension out. Oh yeah, not bad at all. This thing with the better throttle and some more power, nice. My initial impressions on the suspension were actually pretty good, but after riding around in the field for just a couple minutes, my hands and arms were completely pumped. You see, the front fork is really soft and has pretty much no rebound, so after you hit the first bump, you basically have no suspension for the second, third, and so on. My arms are so pumped. The forks are so soft and they don't rebound very quickly. So most of the suspension's just being taken up in your forearms, which is what I was worried about. These grips are like a hard, plasticky, very slippery, like they're not rubber, which grips cost like 90 cents. So I'm not sure why they cheaped out on that one, but price, definitely you're not gonna get anything like this in the electric world for $1,000. And even if you compare it to some gas bikes, my Timu 110 here, I'd rather have this, and they're about the same price. Timu 125, I think, is a lot more of a dirt bike. But if you're a kid or looking for a commuter for your kid, you know, he can drive it to school, but then also have fun on the weekends or whatever, it's a pretty sweet bike for that. It seems pretty tough. I think you could be really hard on this thing without breaking anything. Where it falls short, these plastic grips not being rubber, and this screen sticking out over the throttle, when you're pulling on it, you hit this and this with your hand. This kickstand is just sketchy as heck, but you could just remove that with one bolt, so that's not a big factor. If you just want to buy something and roam around, this can get it done for sure. Just all depends on how serious the cops are in your area about electric dirt bikes on the road, because for the same price, you get a pretty good pedal-assisted bike that you could ride pretty much anywhere without getting in trouble. Whereas this is definitely a lot more fun than one of those, but maybe not allowed in your area. Now, let's see how fast this thing can go. That's full throttle. 17, 23, 26. I don't think this is 30. It says 30. I mean, we are going slightly downhill. I saw 32. I mean, honestly, this is significantly faster than anything electric you can get for the price. And we hit 35. Not bad. Really not bad. Now see how it does on the uphill. Full throttle. See if we catch up to this car. The speed limit is 20. Can we go 20 uphill? Wow, 26. Not bad. How accurate is that speed gauge? Well, I really don't know, to be honest. Felt like I was going a little bit slower, but the ballpark was definitely there. Make sure you subscribe for an awesome new video next week.